Hi, everybody. Welcome to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of our 42 chapters, stretching from Chapel Hill in the Triangle all the way to Wilmington and the coast. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. We have these chapters meet every week, and our goal is to help each other grow their businesses. And our local small business success story this week is Jonathan Byrd with North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. He is out of the Apex office. Jonathan is a member of RDO 7 Professionals in the Peak. They meet Tuesdays at noon at Apex Baptist Church, where Jonathan is the secretary treasurer in the chapter. And Jonathan, if I've got it right, you've been in BNI a little over 4 years.
Yes, sir. I have two different groups, but a little bit over 4 years in total. Yes, sir.
All right, we're glad to have you on the show today. And so Jonathan does in BNI, we call them seats. So Jonathan holds the P and C seat, which is property and casualty, which is home and auto. So Jonathan, I numerous conversations with people in and out of the insurance world. We talk about coverage. We as consumers think we have it. Well, we know we need it. We're told what the minimum is. We get something, but sometimes do we spend enough time talking to folks like you to make sure we have the right coverage?
I would say probably not, because people typically don't think about coverage until they need it. And so kind of, why coverage is so important is especially like liability insurance, especially, that's what covers your asset. So the more assets you have, the more you have that you can lose. So by you just carrying the minimum liability that you have to have, you could essentially lose everything, you know?
Yeah,
So
because we just assume if our car is covered and I'm in an accident, what's a what could anybody hit me up for? But like you said, they can go after your if I hit one of these Teslas
mm,
and one of these trucks and it rolls over and not only totals the truck, but the driver goes to the hospital for like 3 weeks of anything. I'm responsible for that if I cause the accident, correct?
yes, sir, you absolutely are. So you're covered by whatever liability coverage you have in place. But then if you cause an accident or property damage that exceeds those limits, you're on the hook for the difference. A lot of people don't realize that. So, I mean, you could, again, the more assets you have, the more you have to lose. So you could really, by causing one accident, you could really change your entire life.
So
So not to scare anybody, but that's
yeah,
that's how that works.
yeah. So we meet somebody like you. What do we need to tell you or ask you to make sure I got all my houses and toys and everything covered?
Yeah, great question. So like it's kind of my job to ask those questions for the most part. But there's sometimes where people will, call and just want a quote for just their primary home and their auto, and then they may have four or five rentals that I don't know about, right? That we don't even talk about. So um that's kind of you know whenever you do speak to an insurance agent, make sure you let them know what you do have, because again, the more you have, the more you have to lose, you know.
So we sit down with you and we need to make sure that because we've got home and auto, jewelry is and isn't sometimes covered under home.
Yeah, so jewelry, so yeah, you can actually schedule jewelry separately. Jewelry does have a sub limit on a just a basic homeowner's policy of $1,500 per occurrence. So, but that's only for theft. So if someone breaks into your house and steals your jewelry and it's not scheduled separately, the max that they're going to give you is going to be $1,500 per claim. Um, Whereas if say you have like a house fire, for example, that sub limit does not that the sub limit is not there, but it's just there for like theft. So if you do have like say like a $10,000 Rolex or something like that, theft is the most common claim that we see on jewelry, which is why there's that sub limit that's in place. So I would definitely recommend scheduling that separately if you have something like that.
And another word we hear in the insurance world is umbrella policy or umbrella coverage.
Hmm.
And most of us hear that. And I know the assumption is, okay, I can't afford that.
Hmm.
And I think I know what you're going to tell me on that because I've learned the answer because BNI has taught me many things. And one of them is that. But when should we look to do something like that? And what's the benefit for us, the consumer, to have that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I harp on umbrellas pretty regular. Just so you know, and you probably already know this, but basically an umbrella policy is just an excess liability policy that's going to extend from your primary home and your auto. If you have a boat, it'll extend to your boat, and any kind of underlying liability that you have, the umbrella will extend to it. I typically kind of like my general rule of thumb is if you have more than one property, I recommend looking into an umbrella because umbrellas typically are really cheap. So, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it kind of a thing, right? And I mean, it's by cheap, I mean it's really affordable to get a 1 million or $2 million umbrella. So
Yeah. And again, we just as consumers, we don't think about that. I
that's
mean,
right.
we just
That's right.
and again, I tell people every week, I learn a lot of things from BNI. One is to know your local insurance agent, somebody like Jonathan who is from the area, knows the area. I
Mhm.
don't want to speak bad, Jonathan, of any 1-800 number because I'm sure they all are good, but it's kind of nice there are certain phone numbers, cell numbers we should have in our phone.
Yep.
And your lawyer, right? I got my chiropractor in there because I'm old, and your insurance person. So I know it can, I know you hate answering a call at 6:30 on a Saturday night, but it's kind of good to have that number, right?
It is. It is. I mean, every single client I have, they have my personal cell phone number. Some of them will call me at 6:30 on a Friday night, or 6:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. That's just how it works. But I mean, every single client I have has my personal cell phone number, which I think is a really good thing.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So the people watching today, they probably haven't looked at their coverage since it was uh, given to them or binded. Is that what you guys
Binded,
bind
yep.
cover? Yeah.
Hmm.
So what should they go when they go pull out their coverage? What should they look for? What kind of things should they start asking questions about?
Yeah. So kind of the biggest things are, how much coverage do you have on your home, right? As far as homeowners insurance goes, especially in our area, housing prices have gone up dramatically in the last 3, 4 years, ever since COVID kind of ended. Housing prices have gotten a lot higher than they have probably ever been. So there's a lot of people who don't have enough coverage for their home, especially that I've been seeing a lot of. Um, Also, if you've noticed that your premium has increased dramatically from year to year, because every time you get a bill, you should have your previous bill statement, and then you'll have your new bill. And I mean, I've seen some, especially again, homeowners here. I've seen some, double or more than double from last year to this year. And it's just kind of the environment that we're in. We're in a very weird time as far as homeowners insurance, especially. And I mean, we're quoting more homeowners insurance now. Not just us, but insurance agents all around are quoting more homeowners than we ever have. So, not sure that answers your question or not, but that's kind of two big things that I
Yep.
have been seeing.
It
Yeah.
does because you could have bought 5 years ago a $400,000 house
Yep.
and your coverage on your policy has not changed, but the house probably now is worth at least 450, right?
If you bought it for 400 4 or 5 years ago, it's probably 650 or seven now at this
Oh,
point.
geez. And
So
but you only have coverage for a $400,000 house.
400 give or take, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, typically a homeowner's policy has got an inflation guard that's built into the policy, so that coverage is going to increase by a certain percentage every year. But I mean, that certain percentage is not enough to keep up with, if your house is almost doubled, that's not going to be enough to keep up with it.
All right. So if you've got a homeowner's policy, go check that out and see if it
Go check it
matches
out.
what your house is worth today. So,
Yep.
but again, that's why you need phone numbers like Jonathan's in
There
your
you go.
Rolodex or on your phone to answer questions like that. So, all
That's
right.
right.
So, Jonathan, your industry is one of those that there's some good jokes about insurance guy. I'm sure you've heard them all.
Mhm.
But you're also one of those industries like, oh my God, I'm so glad I have Jonathan's number. So how does one get into the insurance world?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's kind of different for everybody. So I graduated college in 2009. If you remember back in 2009, it was a very difficult time. Um, the stock market had crashed. We had the bailouts, all that stuff going on. It was not a good time to graduate, honestly. There was a lot of people who were going back to school for get their masters, and I'm like, I ain't doing that. So I actually, my stepdad growing up actually did like insurance claims. And he told me, he said the worst thing I ever did was quit doing insurance claims. So I was like, let me look into that. So I sent in some applications, and I got hired as a claims adjuster. I did that for almost 9 years. And then I got in with Farm Bureau because we had just had our daughter, and I realized how much daycare costs. So I'm like, I gotta find something different here. So that's where I came to the agent side, and I mean that's kind of how I got into it. Um, it's just being on the claim side first was really, really good because I got to kind of, learn the policy, know what it covers, actually enforce a policy, which most agents have never ever done, which is really good information to have. Um, so I think that was a good segue from college to actually selling insurance.
So if there's an issue at a house, fire, flood, or something like that, they would send you. Do you have to put your kind of like who done it hat on to figure out what happened, how it started, things like that?
Yeah, so at first I did because I was very new to the thing, right? So I didn't really know exactly what was going on. But as I've been there a couple years, it gets to kind of just be the same kind of things over and over again. So you walk into a house fire, you walk into a flood, and you're like, "Yep, I know what happened here." You know what I mean? So um, so yeah, so that's kind of how that worked. And I only did homeowners claims, so I had to go to every claim that I got, which was fine, but it was just one of them things where it was really good experience that I could bring here to the agent side that most agents just don't have the luxury of, you know.
Yep. So you joined, then you rolled over into the agent side.
Yes, sir. I
So
did.
you knew you had to grow a book of business.
Hmm.
So the first week was what? Start growing that book of business. What did you do to get word out?
It was a nightmare, honestly. It was so whenever I first started with Farm Bureau, they gave you it's called Project 100. So you essentially write down 100 people that you know, friends, family, whatever. That's kind of like uh, your first calls that you make that first week or first 2 weeks to try to say, hey, look, I'm selling insurance now. Send me your declarations pages. Let me run some quotes, see what I can do for you, that kind of thing, right? I also joined, funny enough, BNI, which was honestly, I mean, I'll say like not, I'm not saying this just because I'm on this BNI show right now, but BNI is honestly what helped me get to the point that I'm at as far as actually being able to like make it as an insurance agent. Because there was a lender who was in our group back in that first group I was in, and I mean I still see her all the time, and she's honestly one of the reasons that I made it and that I'm still an agent. So honestly the biggest things were joining BNI and doing that every week, and it was really what kind of got me through it, honestly.
And who was the lender?
Let me say her name.
Yep.
The lender was April Roberts.
Cool.
She's
Thank you,
she's with
April.
Yeah, she was with Equity Resources back then. Now she's with Revolution Mortgage.
All right. If anybody knows April, tell her Jonathan still says hey and thank you. So,
Yep, yep.
uh,
I still say hey,
yep.
absolutely.
Yep. So the phone calls are a grind for anybody because
Mhm.
you're going to get 9 out of 10 no's.
Yep.
So you continued to do that. You got into BNI. So what other things do you do to grow your book of business in that first week, month, 90 days?
Yeah, yeah. So I was getting to the point where so just to kind of tell you kind of how our process works a little bit. So someone calls me, they want to get a quote. I do a homeowner's quote for them because we're, some of my homeowners here. Do a homeowner's quote for them. They say, yeah, I want to go with you. I say, get me in touch with your lender, or if and then what I'll do is I'll send what's called a binder and an invoice to that lender, and you can email those over, right? But what I started doing, or what I was doing back then, is I would actually go hand deliver these binders to these lenders, and I would say, hey, this is the binder from Ms. Jones. I'm Jonathan with Farm Bureau. If you have anybody that can ever help, please send them my way. And I would do that over and over and over again. I got to the point where I would go see the same lenders, and they'd be like, Jonathan with Farm Bureau, right? Yep. And then that just kind of stuck in their head. And then the first time they needed something in a pinch, they said, oh, let's call Jonathan with Farm Bureau real quick and see if he can help us out. And I mean, that stuff matters,
Yeah.
like that's the difference between, doing really well and just getting by, you know?
Yep. And I like that because pretty much every day, small business owners have to stay top of mind. And
Yes.
there's 30, 50 probably different ways to do that. But
Yes.
again, the value of you showing up, we're like, oh, okay, thanks. And I'm sure a couple of people probably told you can just email that to us. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
heard that. Yep.
They sure
Yep.
did.
But when they had to recall the name of an insurance agent,
I was
so
right
wow, I
there.
commend you for that because I don't think many insurance agents do that, Jonathan.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that I annoyed a number of lenders doing that, but I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care.
Uh,
No.
to your knowledge, roughly today, if you can, or at least this month or this year, how many insurance agents are there in the Triangle area? Any idea? We're talking a
I
couple
have
thousand, are
no
we?
idea. A lot.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. I know Farm Bureau has over 900 agents across the entire state. That's not
Wow.
the triangle. So we have agents in every single county. But as far as how many agents in the triangle, I have no idea, but it's a lot.
So when did you know that something was clicking and you're like, okay, I think this is going to work out?
Yeah. So I wish I could have a distinct time that I knew it was clicking, but it's just kind of the the more you do it, the faster your book grows. The the more comfortable you get talking to clients is just it kind of all happens at one time. Like it's kind of hard to explain, but it's just, the more you do it, the more appointments you have, the more people you meet, the more comfortable you get doing it. The more, comfortable you are talking to other people, the more they can trust you. It's just I don't have an exact point in time whenever it started clicking, but it just did. It just kind of happened organically, kind of.
And can I assume as an adjuster, you were not 100% commission, but as an agent, you are 100% commission?
That's correct. That was W-2 as an adjuster, and I'm 100% commissioned as an agent. Yes, sir.
And you've met other people who decided not to start their own business because it is a huge leap of faith in
Yes.
yourself, isn't it? So, what kind of conversations went on with you and your wife, Nicole, family members, stuff like that about, okay, I think this is the time to do this and the way to go?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it didn't go over the best, honestly. Whenever I was telling my in-laws, especially, they were like, "You sure you want to do this?"
Mhm.
But because I was going from a W-2 guaranteed salary, benefits, 401k, all this stuff, right, to being just commission. So that's a big difference, right? Like that's a really big difference. Um, but um, but the one thing that kind of sticks out is kind of what prompted me to even look elsewhere in the first place. 'Cause I actually really enjoyed one claims. Like it was a great job. I was helping people. It was great. But in 2015, I actually won Adjuster of the Year for my company for the East region. There was about, I don't know, 200 and some adjusters that were in my region, and I won Adjuster of the Year for that reason. Well, for that year, and it came time for my annual review the following March, And my boss, we had a Zoom call just like this right here. My boss was like, "Yep, we're going to give you a 1.3% raise." I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "We're going to give you a 1.3% raise." I'm like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." So, I mean, and I worked my butt off in 2015 for that company. And I was like, this isn't going to work. So it was at that point that I knew that I had to do something different. And that kind of got me to the point where I was confident enough where I could branch out and trust myself, believe in myself, and do this. So that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me by me only getting a 1.3% raise from my previous company because I may not have made this jump had that not happened.
See, now
Right.
you lead into something that I'm a huge fan of in that moment in time decision
Hmm.
where, because I've met people like, hey, I was going to go to this party and then I decided not to. And the last minute I decided to go and they met their spouse or, stories like that.
Sure.
So if you'd have taken the 1.3% after being adjuster of the year,
Hmm.
you knew next year was going to be what, zero point 0.7 if you didn't win adjuster of the
Best
year?
case, best case, right? And it was just, it was because he was like, this is more than anybody else got, which I was like, man, this is this is crazy. But it was just like, I was worth a lot more than what they were giving me, and I was like, I've got to go somewhere else and bet on myself, and that's what I did, you know.
Yeah, because my brother, for people who have never owned a small business, they don't understand why, Jonathan, why in the world would you want to leave that what you have, right? Because my brother and I have had a couple businesses, and our mom would go, "Why are you two doing this?" You just don't understand. But I feel sometimes it's in your blood. But to be a small business owner or growing a book of business on your own, 100% commission, you kind of you're okay being a risk taker.
Yep.
But sounds like you had done your homework as well.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely had. I mean, I had a really good buddy of mine who started with Farm Bureau about the same time I started doing claims, and he did really well. And it was pretty obvious that he was doing a lot better at life than I was. So I'm like, let's go ahead and give this Farm Bureau thing a try, And it's been great. It's been great.
And just so people can understand how long this leap sometimes takes,
Mhm.
not asking numbers, but roughly how long did it take you to replace that adjuster salary as a 100% commissioned agent?
Yeah, it took me by my second year, I had already made more than as an adjuster, right? So by the end of that second year, I was already in a better spot.
Yeah.
Um, so it was scary to do at the time. It was you going from something certain to something uncertain. But at some point, you have to take a risk somewhere, and this is what I chose to do.
I agree. And now you're probably making more of that guy that offered you 1.7%, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's much better on this side than the adjuster side for sure.
I bet, yeah.
It's much better.
So let's go back to your first client that wasn't family related. You don't have to
Mhm.
give a name or anything, but do you remember who that was and how nervous you were at the table writing that policy?
Yeah, so I actually remember it very clearly. I actually met him at a fast food restaurant. We got on the Wi-Fi there, and we were doing all this stuff, and it was it is really funny, like, looking back to, like, how you were before versus now, right? It's like you'll in your first year, you're willing to deal with about anything as far as, like, attitude, whatever, right? Then as you've been in the business for a little while, you're like, "I don't need that person." You know what I'm saying? Is it not to sound arrogant, that's not the point, but it's just like, you'll tolerate anything to get started, but then once you're established, you're like, I don't even want you as a client. And again, that sounds bad, but that's just honest. You know what I mean? So, it was one of them things. It was a difficult meeting. He was a difficult client. I was also pretty new, so he wasn't as patient as the first client maybe should have been. But that's just kind of how it goes.
Uh, have you found is there any good stories about the weirdest way people have gotten your name or found you through whatever connection source?
Um, I wouldn't say weird. We're all word of mouth at Farm Bureau, right? Like we do very little advertising. And by very little, I mean very little advertising. We do like, I think Pandora commercials and stuff like that. And, we have like a little 15-second spot on like country music, FM channels and stuff. So it's very minimal advertising that we do. Um, so it's pretty much all word of mouth. So, but the thing that kind of sticks out to me was this has been probably 4 years or so ago. I had somebody call me from California, and he was in like San Diego, maybe somewhere in like Southern California, and he had a house here, so he's looking for homeowners insurance. And I said, "How on earth did you find me in San Diego, California?" And he said, "I'm a BNI member." And so I was searching the BNI site and I came across you because you're in the area. My house is right down the road from you. I want you to be my agent. I was like, I had no idea BNI even had a website like that.
Wow.
So, I mean, had I not been a part of BNI, that would never have happened. You know what I mean?
Yep. And when I do my chapter training, I tell people have everything filled out because BNI people look for BNI people. So, and I love those stories. I'm going to use that one
Yeah.
because I'm always
Yeah.
looking for new stories. But again, there's value in, oh, he's in BNI, so somebody else has already vetted him. So yeah, he should be good to
Exactly
go.
right.
Plus, a new Farm Bureau.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
I
And
mean, you guys,
yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, had I not been a part of Farm Bureau, I mean, Jesus, BNI, that wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
because I think of the 40, there are 31 chapters in the Triangle, 10 in the coastal region.
yeah.
I would say of those 41 or 42 chapters, we got a couple of core groups getting close. I bet there's 15. I bet Farm Bureau easily has one third of those seats, if not
I
more.
I believe it
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a
And
big presence in BNI for sure.
yeah.
Farm Bureau agents do.
Yeah. And Matt Stone, who is in
Yep,
RDO4, Open
yep.
IBNI, meets up in
Everybody
Durham.
knows Matt Stone. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the first guests on. I think he was like guest number 5 or 6, but he's been in BNI 20 years. And I get from people, oh, well, yeah, I don't think I need BNI anymore. I'm like, let me tell you about Matt Stone, why he's still in
Sneaky.
BNI.
Yeah. Yeah. Let
It,
me tell you about
and
this
I
guy.
think to the point, because you guys can earn trips
Yep.
based on your productivity, which is what companies should be doing, right?
Yep.
And I swear, I told last time I saw Matt, I've not seen him in a couple of years, but I think I asked him, he was headed to San Diego or somewhere. And I said, have they named that trip after you yet? Because you seem to win it every year.
Yeah, he wins it every single year. He sure does. It's like clockwork, man.
Yep. All right. So this is the based on what I know now segment of the show. Okay.
Okay.
So based on what you know today, what would today's Jonathan tell day one Jonathan about how to grow the book of business?
Was not expecting this question. Um, I would say, um, I'd say just, stay focused, manage, do better with time management. To this day, I don't do the best job of time management. So, um, managing your times, you only have, X amount of hours here every day, right? And, people will call you, clients will call you about a billing question that, matters to them, but ultimately it doesn't matter at all. And you can get so wrapped up in that kind of stuff so quick. And then you look down at the clock and it's, 1:30 and it's like, where's my whole morning gone? You know what I mean? So I would say what I would tell my early self was, be intentional about what you're doing, manage your time, don't let other people take your time, and try to stay as rigid to your schedule as possible. Because that's ultimately how you do well. You know.
Have your daily and weekly, monthly goals, because I know Farm Bureau has a set of numbers as most businesses should. You're in
Yep.
sales. We
Yep.
need you to hit these numbers, right?
Yep.
So have the goals, because I know you have to follow that, but then I'm sure you have your own things that you'd like to accomplish in it. How
Mhm.
has that changed over the last 4 years from day one until today?
Yeah. So I mean, so we have kind of like two main things that we look at, right? One's the PNC side, one's the life insurance side. We do a good bit of life insurance here at Farm Bureau. So from that PNC side, the first couple years I kind of worried about it. Now I don't really worry about it because I've got, lenders and realtors who send me clients and stuff. I've got a much bigger book of business now, and those clients send me people for PNC, for home and auto and stuff. So from the PNC side, I don't really get too wrapped up into that because that kind of takes care of itself. Just because kind of, rates kind of, price kind of sells themselves as far as that goes. But on the life insurance side, it's a constant effort. It's a constant effort to try to get in front of people, try to talk to them about what they have, that kind of thing. So those goals haven't really changed. That's just kind of there and it's constant. But PNC is kind of starting to like take care of itself.
Very
I'm not sure that's
nice.
the answer you're looking for, but that's
Yep,
kind of
yep, yep,
where we're at with it. Yeah,
yep. Yeah, life insurance is one of those uncomfortable situations and phone calls, even at, because I heard it said the other day, I forget who said it. Life insurance is not for you because you're dead. This is for the people you leave behind. And people
that's right.
like, I'm 30, I'm healthy. I don't think I need, I know you've heard all of these excuses
I've heard it
on
all, man.
either I don't need it right now or what I have is good enough.
Yep. Yep. I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. And I mean, and that's, the first year or two, that was kind of an uncomfortable conversation. Now it's not uncomfortable at all. You know what I mean? It's like the more you have that conversation, the more you can say, look, you need more coverage. What you have at work is great because it's cheaper, it's free. It's probably not enough coverage. And if you left, can you take it with you? Probably not. So it's it gets easier the more you do it, right? So it's just one of them things where it was uncomfortable, now it's not uncomfortable. I've got no problem talking to people about life insurance anymore. You know what I mean?
Now, yep, some people in BNI have that seat where once they find out what you do, whether you're at a party or somewhere, they're like, hey, quick question. And you
Yep,
know what that means, right?
I
It's not
do.
a quick question, is it?
It is not a quick question. No, it's not. It is not a quick question at all. So
And do you find that some of those actually turn into business?
yeah, absolutely. It usually starts off with, home and auto, and then, typically we'll do like a review with somebody just to make sure they understand what they have, right, with a home and auto. That's one thing that I think Farm Bureau does a really, really good job of, not just me personally, but Farm Bureau in general, is that we do a good job of trying to educate our clients. Because like there's been so many times where I'll be doing a review with somebody and I'll say, do you know the difference between comprehensive and collision? No.
Nope, we do
It's
not.
okay. So then I go through, I explain why you got to have liability, what liability is, the difference between comp and collision. Um, so it's, I hope that every insurance agent does that, but I know Farm Bureau, we do a really good job of trying to educate our clients, let them know what they're paying for, why they're paying for it, why they need it. Um, and that's one of the things I think that separates Farm Bureau from most other companies. You know,
Yeah, because we don't know that stuff. We hear those words
correct.
and we just know I'm
Yep.
covered, so I can get my license, I can get my
Yep.
tag renewed, all that
Yep.
good
And I
stuff.
mean,
So,
we deal with this stuff every day. You
yeah.
know what I
Oh,
mean? And people only look at insurance usually whenever they need it or whenever their policies renew.
yeah.
So that's for auto, it's every 6 months. For home, it's every year. We look at this stuff every single day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's kind of our job to make sure that you know what you have, why you have it, what it is, what it covers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's um, a big deal for us.
Or they wait till the hurricane is actually named and then they call you for their
That's
insurance.
correct. I'm
Like,
like, too late,
yep,
too late.
yep. And that's the industry, right?
Yep, it is.
Not necessarily Farm Bureau or you as an agent that, hey, there's an industry thing, folks. And if you can explain that to real quick, what
Yeah,
triggers those things with hurricanes and storms and all
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So hurricane season, as you well know, is June 15th through December 15th. Um, or June 30th through December 30th, whatever it is. But so essentially June through December. Um, when a hurricane is a named storm, especially if it's coming in our direction, they'll do what's called binding restrictions, which means that we cannot write any coverage until that hurricane gets through. So, if somebody calls and they want, coverage for home or auto or whatever, um, while while we do have those restrictions in place, we can't write coverage for that. So we have to wait until the hurricane comes through before we can write coverage for that stuff. So that's how that works.
All right, folks, no hurricanes being named today. Good opportunity, good
Good
timing to go and
opportunity.
make sure you have what you have. Because
Absolutely.
that's the beauty of it. None of us know, oh, there hadn't been one come this way in X number of years, and everybody's
Right.
bragging, and then here
Yep.
comes two. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly right.
So one of the questions I enjoy asking on the show for my guests that are married, so your wife's name is Nicole.
Mhm.
How did you meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Yes, we both tell the story the same way. I actually met her. I was on a treadmill side by side with her at the gym that we were going to. Um, she was actually working at the gym at the time, and she had just gotten off, so she was trying to get a workout in before she went home. And there was a treadmill that was broken, like in between me and her. So I was on the treadmill. There's a broken treadmill than hers, and she, being a good employee, was trying to fix the broken treadmill. I knew it was broke because I had gotten on that one trying to get closer to her, and it was broke. So then she got on it, and I said, "I think that treadmill's broke," and she's like, "Yeah, I know it is. I'm trying to fix it, right? Just trying to be smart about it." And then we just kind of started talking, and it was like close to like Valentine's Day. So, it just kind of, one thing kind of led to another. And I ended up giving her my phone number, and she called me that night, and it's been the best day of her life so far, ever since.
There you go. And
Yep.
where was the official first date?
The official first date was, actually, we went to I guess, so her and one of her friends was already like at a club downtown. And I told her, I said, if you go out, let me know. And so her and her friend were out, and then I went and actually met them down there, and we just, kind of hit it off. And that was kind of the start of it at that point.
So if I asked Nicole if she had to grade your dancing skills, you're a pretty decent dancer.
She would tell me terrible, or she would tell you terrible, and she would be spot on accurate with that. She'd be spot on accurate.
Yeah, my wife loves dancing, and
Yeah.
we make a list of the person we're going to marry has these 12 traits or skill sets or whatever it is. Like number one is they got to be a dancer. I can't find the beat to move, so that's
Yes.
my struggle.
I understand. I
Yeah,
understand. I just feel awkward dancing, so
I
that's
do
my
too.
struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just not for me.
Yeah, I'll slow
But
dance with her all day long
same here.
because you can move, not move, whatever you want to do. But the fast
Absolutely.
dancing, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I'm a slow
I'm with you
dancing
on that.
machine, but when it becomes a fast dancing, I don't know what I'm doing. So
So, other than your stepdad, was insurance in your family gene pool somewhere else?
not really.
Good.
Or if it was, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. So it was funny. He did claims for 5 or 6 years, and then he actually went and he was an independent life insurance agent. So it was kind of funny. Our paths are very similar, and it was just kind of cool to kind of see my path kind of follow his. Um, and it was, even though he wasn't my biological father, it was funny how similar we are. You know what I mean? It was pretty cool to kind of see that happen.
Yeah, it's I always because you probably took no insurance classes in college, right?
Not at near one. Nope.
And no classes on how to start your own business.
Nope. None of that. I did major in business, but they didn't teach you how to start your own business.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So, all right, so where did you go to college?
I went to Campbell University.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're unloading all your stuff in the dorm on day one. What
Mhm.
was the plan?
I didn't really have a plan. I didn't really want to go to college, if I'm being honest with you. But I had fantastic parents that were like, "You're going to go to college. I don't care what you do once you're done, but you're going to finish college." So I didn't really have a plan. I took some chemistry courses and realized pretty quickly I had no business in chemistry. So, and I always thought I was good at math until I took calculus, and I'm like, this is just awful. So I was like, let me look into the business courses. I feel like that'd be a little easier, and it was really a good choice. It was a good choice. So, yep,
Yep. It's funny looking back how many people actually are in the field that they went to college for. And
right.
I'm thinking it's 20%. I
That's
have no
probably
idea
high.
why I picked that number, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's probably
thinking
high.
it's
Unless you're like a doctor or
yeah.
something like that, CPA. I don't know what else you'd be. Yeah,
Yeah. But a lot of
but
times with college, we don't have a plan. And you have your debates on college, good, bad, or different. But a lot of times it helped us grow up.
yeah, absolutely, it
Yeah.
does. It does.
I would go back tomorrow. If I knew what was going to happen, meet my wife, have the same kids, grandkids, all that,
Yeah,
I would go back. I'd roll the clock back and go back
just
tomorrow.
redo it all again. Okay.
And I'm with you. I wanted no part of grad school or anything like that. I had 4 wonderful years at Tennessee, but I
Yeah,
was done with college, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was the same way. I couldn't wait to get out. And it's funny. So my wife now is actually she's a adjunct professor at Campbell.
Ooh,
So she has her master's, and now she's a adjunct professor at Campbell. So like she loves school. I'm like, wow, we are so different. We're
yeah,
so different. I
I
can't
know.
wait to get out, and she just wants to stay in.
And so it'll be interesting with your daughter as she ages, reader, studier, more classes, no classes, what?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. She takes after my wife a lot, which is great. So hopefully she'll be, big time into school. But she is going to go to an all girls school, so I'm gonna make sure of that.
I hear you,
Meredith
man.
Meredith is looking pretty good.
Yep, yep. Hey, having raised two boys, I have two granddaughters now. I have the same. I tell my boys all that they each have one daughter, one
Yep,
one daughter and one son. I'm like, okay, Portland and Maggie, they're going, yeah. So I'm just,
yep, yep,
and
yep.
they just roll their
Meredith,
eyes like, okay, I hear you, I'm with you. So,
absolutely, absolutely.
okay, you were born in Germany.
Mhm.
Why? How?
Yeah. So I was born in Germany because my father was in the Air Force.
Yep.
He was stationed over there, and is just you know timing. That's the only reason I was born there. My whole family is actually from Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, I was just born there. I know nothing about Germany. I can't speak any German. It's just it's just one of the
Yep.
things. I was born on Air Force Base.
Well, and I figured you were because my wife is an Air Force brat and her
Mhm.
sister was born in Japan.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you have a card you have to carry with you that
Yep.
every time you show your license, for the most part, you got to show that card, right?
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. So does
Yep.
my sister-in-law.
Yep. Yep. It's good stuff. It's good
Now,
stuff.
my wife was in Germany at a better age than when you were in Germany, granted a few years ahead of you, but she graduated high school in Heidelberg.
Really?
Yeah. And so in Germany, like 15, you can drink beer, right? And so you're over there for a couple of years drinking that heavy beer. Came when she graduated, she came over to the States to go to college and just drinking these college boys under the table because it was light beer.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
not doing anything for
Yeah.
me.
I'm drinking water over here. That's right. That's right.
All
Um,
right, so we've been putting Jonathan's phone number on the screen here. Also, Farm Bureau office in Apex. It's South Salem Street, right, Jonathan?
yes, sir, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're in your
Mhm.
area, pop in, say hi to him, ask him some questions. He'll help you.
Yeah.
Give him a call. So we got people watching the show. They know they have coverage. So
Mhm.
we're going to ask them to do two things when we log off. We're going to ask them to do one or two things with regard to their policy to see if they've got what they need. What do you recommend they do?
Um, I honestly recommend them calling their local agent, assuming they have one, and doing a full insurance review where they review home, auto, umbrella if they have one, life insurance, disability, long-term care, review everything. By doing that, you're going to uncover if you have any needs anywhere that you don't know about. Um, and it will also help your agent as well know what you have outside of what they have for you. So that will be the big thing that I would recommend doing. Not necessarily just one thing to look for, but contact your agent, have them do a full review with you and see what kind of gaps you have, or maybe you're overinsured somewhere. That happens sometimes too.
Well, good. All right, folks. And that's why you need somebody like Jonathan on your side to do this, because insurance is tricky. And if there's a loophole and you cause something, there'll be a lawyer, somebody there to find that. So you'll have to pay more than you should. That's why earlier we talked about umbrella policies, comprehension versus collision, stuff like that. There's certain things we need to outsource, and insurance explanation is one of them. So, Jonathan, thanks for being on the show today. We really enjoyed it. Congrats on your success.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if anybody's in Apex on Tuesdays at noon, go by the Apex Baptist Church for Jonathan's chapter called Professionals in the Peak, and you will meet a good bunch of people, especially if you're in the Apex area. But more importantly, you get to meet Jonathan. So
That's right.
look forward to you doing that. And so we will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.